Oh, Nikola Trobic. Yes. Welcome, welcome. All right, so this is the Q&A session. So to kick it off, obviously I have a bunch of questions for you. I think my first question would be, when you're looking at the props, the set design, the costumes, if you can maybe walk us through that process of basically facilitating that whole process of having a set design as big as that and having that on a set, especially for the people listening who are beginners. What did that look like for you, and how much of your time did that consume?
Well, thank you everyone for watching the film, and hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. My name is Nikola Trobic, and I play only a minor part in the film. It's actually, there's a lot more of me in the TV series, because a 6-episode TV series was done as well, which is kind of goes a lot more into depth to, into the whole story and everything. But it's, as you say, it was a massive production, and it really took, the whole project took nearly 4 years to complete. 2.5 years of filming during 2 summers, and everything was done in the real location, and all events were real. And these are historical facts based on real people. The family where the film was based upon, they're not real, they're fictional. But all the other the army officers and everyone else, they're real characters. And the character I play, Archie Jack, there is a great interview with him at the Imperial War Museum, and I encourage anyone to listen to it, because it's absolutely amazing. Walks you through the history of the wars during the Second World War in Serbia and in what was then Yugoslavia. But the production was extremely complicated and complex, as you can see. There were so many people hired, the extras and the filming crew, literally for every single details, from people doing transports to to minor, even to special effects people afterwards. So it was many different companies were hired, specialists for costumes, specialists for guns, specialists for even like army consultants who would say what was the real, what real weapons were used during the Second World War. And it was just really, really fascinating and amazing. So, from horse trainers to dog trainers to every little detail. So it was just fantastic. And it's just, I think it was to date the biggest film production in Serbia ever. And the most expensive, and just the hugest. And I remember we were filming when, the people were building the runway, and there were nearly 300 extras. And I remember each one of us had to remember the lines, because if one of us messed it up, then all of the 300 extras have to go back to the starting positions and redo the whole thing again. So it was really, fascinating to do. And the film director, Radoš Bajić, he's actually the guy who's playing the accordion, the guy who's blind in one eye. He's the director. And it kind of, appears as a small cameo role, a little bit like Tarantino does in his films. He always appears in a minor role. But he's absolutely amazing guy. He's a fantastic director and actor. And he's so friendly towards everyone, even towards the extras. And he puts you at ease and really, walks you through your role. And every filming day, it was just really, really fascinating.
Thank you so much. And I think that makes sense, just looking at the size of the set and all the moving parts, right? So from your side, especially the end battle scene, how long did that take to film? Because I just can't even imagine, as you were saying, the largest, production in Serbia. What was the length for that in terms of the timeline?
I think the last one took about a month to film, and I remember they were looking for different locations where there's fields, and the way the sun, hits every hill, and so it was just really fascinating. And I think it definitely, that particular scene, the ending scene, took about a month to just film, and then the post-production and everything. So it was a complex scene, and especially the special effects, the blood, the real guns and everything. It was just really, really fascinating stuff.
A final question from myself. Obviously, with this set had so many moving parts. For yourself, when you were on set, did you learn anything? I know I saw in the credits, especially, you worked with a lot of different types of industries as well, right? I used to work in the aerospace sector, and I recognized some of the planes. So I'm just curious, what What was that for you when you were liaising with all these different industries? Did you learn a lot? What was that relationship like with these different teams that you had to work with to bring that practicality to the movie?
Yeah, it was definitely a learning experience, and I learned a lot about the planes, and especially the Second World War planes, which I didn't really know too much about. I knew about the Halyard mission. The fascinating thing is that it was really kept secret from the general public, because the communists did take over Yugoslavia and Serbia, and they wrote their own version of history where this was just deleted. Like they behaved as if this didn't happen, and over 500 American and British pilots were saved and soldiers. But to learn everything, how the field was built and how the planes functioned and how they landed, how they took off at night, the Dakotas. And I remember turning up at the scene and just seeing these planes. Some were, just there, and I was just staring at them in disbelief because I'd never seen anything like that. Maybe an air show or something like that. But yeah, this was really amazing. And you speak to real pilots and real army generals who were there as consultants, and they would explain, how everything was working. So it was just a fascinating learning experience.
Thank you so much. So we do have some time. Are there any questions from the audience? Yes.
Thank you. Hi. I was just wondering why this story was told. So does director has any connection with it, or it's just something that he felt that needs to be told to public?
There is a Halyard Foundation in America, and they invested, a lot of money into like building a memorial. So if you go to Serbia, if you ever get a chance, and I do recommend it, if you go to that particular Pranjani village, there is a memorial, and there's still a field which is still flat, and you can see where the planes were landing. And I think it just fascinated him because the world doesn't know about this, and it was the greatest mission of this sort ever, even until this day. I don't think anything like this has ever been done, before or since. So I think it was just a fascinating story that he felt the world needs to know about, especially the world in the West, because again, people do still believe the communist version of history, which is very far from the truth. This particular film is, although it's a war film, I think it's very much against the war, because as you see in the end, there's two brothers standing, overlooking the grave of the third brother, and it's just great symbolism of the Serbian people suffering, because these things were really happening. You used to have, brothers from the same family literally shooting each other, killing each other, and it's a great tragedy. So I think Radoš, the director, really felt this world needs to know about stories like this, and not just one version of things should be known, but actually the whole truth. And there's books written about this, since, and I do recommend, there's a huge amount of stuff on the internet, and it's Halyard mission is really something just amazing.
Thank you so much. Any final questions before we finish today? Oh, we got a question here, yeah?
I was wondering if you'd speak to there were some interview clips that kicked off the film. I was wondering if there were extended version of those and how much of those were filmed, and I guess tangential to the previous question, as you said, these are real stories, even the family dynamics and everything. So what was the significance, I guess, of it being dramatized as opposed to being told in a documentary format? I was wondering if you would be able to speak to that. Thank you.
If you just Google stuff like, a Halyard mission or something like that, which were proper hour-long or even longer documentaries, and the interviews you saw at the beginning were real. These were real pilots telling real stories, and especially, the guy, I don't know if you remember, when he thought he was drinking water, but he was drinking rakia, which is like a Serbian brandy, very strong and very potent. And but these pilots were, they kind of felt the need also to speak about this, because the world just didn't know about this. And they some of them wrote books, some of them gave interviews, there were documentaries made, but I think this particular film was just the need to be kind of a real story brought as a drama, dramatized and brought to life, just so people can really understand how things really worked during the Second World War. This is an anti-war film because it just tells you the tragedy of war, and just how, you know, a family will kill each other literally over different points of view, and then, you know, one version of the, you know, truth or history prevails over the other, which is unfair. So I just think the real pilots as well, the film director and the whole crew just felt the need to express this as a kind of dramatized film version. And like I said, there is a TV series called Air Bridge, which is a lot longer and a lot more detailed. So again, you know, I recommend. I think it may be streamed to some of the platforms. I'm not really sure. Could be Netflix, could be, you know, Amazon Prime or something like that. But I certainly hope so, and I do recommend that, you know, anyone who can watches it.
Thank you so much. Well, I think that concludes the Q&A. Thank you so much for coming up and showcasing the background, the creative process, what it was like working on a set like this, especially a set at this proportion. So with that, I just want to give a special... Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Just one last thing, and this is, I kind of feel the duty to mention this. The main actor, the father of the family, Costa, he died a year ago, and of cancer, tragically. And when the film premiered in Serbia, in Belgrade, he was barely able to walk on stage, but there was a big audience, and he got a standing ovation, which lasted, I think, more than 10 minutes. And I think 2 or 3 weeks after that, he sadly died. But he's an amazing actor, and I think as you can see from the film, he's just he's so real and so convincing in every role he plays. Žarko Laušević, and it's a tragic loss. So I'm sorry to keep you a little bit longer. I just felt the duty to mention this.
Thank you so much for sharing. Well, with that, let's give a final round of applause for Heroes of Halyard.